Welcome back to The Weakest Explorer, where Rowan's party finally looks almost competent, which means Donwell is about to take that personally. Today, a rescue mission will break Brienne's shield, test Leora's faith, and force Rowan to prove what kind of leader he actually is. Rain drums against the guild windows while the whole room works very hard at avoiding bad news. Then Odell pins up portraits of two missing novices, Neri Vale, a young healer, and Cal Rusk, her spearman partner. Their penciled route never leaves the beginner-safe corridors, which should make this an easy search. It does not. Outside, their families wait for somebody to promise the pair are coming home. Inside, every veteran suddenly finds the floor fascinating. Rowan studies the novice's little map instead of the reward, already hunting for the mistake everyone else missed. Leora recognizes Neri as the nervous healer who once asked her how to stop shaking around blood. Brienne skips the speeches and asks the only useful question: when did they miss check-in? Odell says 6 hours ago, and the silence in the room gets heavier. The posted reward barely covers rope and medicine, so apparently 2 human lives are having a clearance sale. Rowan accepts before Odell can finish asking. Brienne checks the old cracks in her shield, knowing this rescue may ask more of it than it has left. Leora quietly packs twice her usual bandages and none of her usual excuses. Odell hands Rowan the route token, along with the expression of a man trusting his last available bad idea. And Bramblegate's weakest party heads into the rain before anyone sensible can stop them. Only then does Garrick arrive, perfectly dry and perfectly late. Odell gives him one last chance to take the rescue token. Garrick weighs it in his palm like the guild has personally insulted him. His first question is not whether the novices are alive, but whether they carried anything valuable. Odell reminds him that the valuable things are the people. Garrick's companions laugh at the tiny reward because cruelty is free and they can finally afford it. He calls the disappearance natural selection, which is a bold opinion from a man protected by other people's work. Leora does not freeze this time. She just looks at him like she finally understands exactly how small he is. Brienne steps between Garrick and the door before that look becomes a medical problem. Naturally, Garrick answers by mocking the cracks in her shield. Rowan points out that a cracked shield still shields people, while an expensive spear is useless when its owner walks away. Garrick leans in with the sort of threat men use when they need height to do the thinking, but Rowan notices Forbidden West Trail mud on his boots. Garrick has been somewhere he does not want Odell asking about. Garrick grabs a premium quest and leaves before curiosity becomes evidence. Rowan follows his party out wearing a smile that promises this conversation is not finished. At Donwell, the marked route looks familiar right up to the stairwell. The lower landing is simply gone, replaced by a black drop and the comforting sound of moving water. Fresh cracks split the painted safe route arrows, proving the dungeon changed after the novices entered. Rowan drops a pebble, then waits long enough for everyone to regret letting him lead. The splash comes from far below. Brienne anchors a rope around her shield and turns herself into the party's least comfortable winch. Leora tests the knot twice because Rowan remains Rowan. He volunteers to descend first with suspicious enthusiasm. Both women reject that plan before he reaches the end of the sentence. Then Brienne lowers him first anyway because apparently the objection was procedural. Rowan swings past broken stairs hanging upside down inside the shaft. Halfway down, he spots a novice pack caught on a spike. He cuts it free one-handed while Leora develops several new reasons to yell at him. Inside is a healing vial that is still warm. The missing pair passed this spot recently. And directly above him, a stone moth unfolds wings sharp enough to turn that good news into a problem. Rowan drops into a tilted archive before the moth can take his face off. Ruined shelves lean through the chamber while more stone moths scrape across the dark. Then a weak knock answers from behind the fallen masonry. Neri calls through a narrow air pocket, exhausted but alive. Beside her, Cal keeps a broken spear raised over a leg pinned under stone. Rowan signals up the rope. 2 survivors, both hurt, and a room full of things with too many sharp edges. Brienne descends next, swinging through the shaft like an armored pendulum. Her landing scatters the nearest moths and most of the remaining dignity. Leora slides down after her with both hands locked around the rope. A moth dives straight at the healer's face. Leora squeaks, fires on instinct, and blasts it through a bookshelf. Fear still counts when the spell lands. The impact shakes loose enough dust to reveal dozens more shapes along the ceiling. Neri begs them to leave before the whole swarm wakes. Rowan only smiles because he came down here expecting bodies and found 2 people he can still save. Then every stone wing in the archive folds toward them at once. Brienne spots one doorway narrow enough to make the swarm fight her one creature at a time. She plants her shield across it and becomes the wall. The first moth crashes into the iron hard enough to ring the room. The second impact drives her boot backward across the stone. Behind her, Rowan starts clearing rubble from Neri and Cal. Leora threads healing light through the gap, stabilizing them without shifting the slab. Brienne calls out her remaining stamina before anyone asks. She is finally treating weakness like information, not shame. The moths pile against her shield until the doorway sounds like a collapsing forge. Stone claws rake over the battered rim and tear away another strip of metal. Brienne changes the angle, redirects the pressure, and refuses to give them a straight path through. Meanwhile, Rowan reaches the slab, crushing Cal's right leg. He lifts until his arms shake, but the stone does not move. Leora reinforces his torn shoulder just enough to keep him digging. At the doorway, Brienne's knee starts to buckle. She orders Rowan not to look back. Cal needs those seconds more than she does. Then the largest moth hits the center of her shield. A bright fracture races across the old iron. Brienne sees the crack spreading and understands exactly what comes next. The swarm strikes together. Her shield splits from rim to boss. Brienne catches both halves against her forearms and holds them in the doorway anyway. Blood runs beneath her gauntlets as the broken edges bite back. She tells Rowan to take everyone else and leave her there. One glance shows him the truth. Her plan buys seconds by spending the rest of her life. Rowan refuses. He did not build this party to turn people into useful sacrifices. Brienne calls it her duty. Rowan answers by jamming Cal's broken spear through both shield halves. The wreck becomes a crude barricade, ugly, temporary, and therefore exactly Rowan's specialty. Leora seals the remaining gap with hard light, and Rowan drags Brienne clear one heartbeat before the doorway gives way. Their escape route ends at a flooded maintenance channel. Cal's injured right leg cannot carry him another step. Neri is conscious, but exhaustion and her injured left arm leave her unable to walk the channel. Brienne immediately offers to stay behind again because one rejected sacrifice was apparently not clear enough. Rowan ignores her and notices an ancient maintenance door beside the water. Appraisal identifies the archive panels inside as buoyant, so Rowan tears 2 cabinet panels free and calls them a rescue sled. Brienne lashes them together with straps from her broken shield. Cal and Neri are secured on the sled, wounded but finally moving. Rowan pulls from the front while Leora pushes from behind. Neither healer is mysteriously riding the patient sled. The water climbs past Rowan's knees and turns every step into an argument. Behind them, the moth swarm tears through the barricade. Brienne takes the rear and uses one shield half as a paddle and the other as whatever dignity remains. Then the current catches the sled and drags all 5 of them toward an iron grate. Rowan loops the rope around an ancient lever and turns himself into the world's least qualified anchor. The lever does not move. Rowan's wet hands slide down the bronze while the grate gets closer. Leora's mana is almost gone, and everyone in the channel can see it. The moths spread over the water behind them like a second ceiling. Brienne stands behind the sled with bare steel, guarding Neri and Cal while her ruined arms shake. Then shock stops Neri's breathing. Leora spends the mana she was saving for herself and reaches for the wounded healer. Her light restarts Neri's breath. Through the hidden bond, Rowan feels Leora's certainty settle where fear used to be. She tells him to keep going. She trusts the ridiculous plan because she trusts the man making it. Rowan appraises the lever again and spots corrosion locked around the hinge. A narrow burst of heat could free it, if anyone had enough magic left. Leora gives the hinge her final spark.
Rowan and Brienne wrench the lever together. The floodgate opens and the released current sweeps the stone moths away from them. The survivors finally reach a dry maintenance room and collapse in a very untidy pile of victory. Leora treats Brienne's torn forearms, while Neri and Cal rest safely nearby. Brienne notices the faint mark below Leora's collarbone. Leora covers it on instinct, which answers at least half the question. Rowan attempts a tactical retreat into snacks. Brienne declines the snack offensive and asks whether the mark came from him. The silence tells her this secret belongs to both of them. So Rowan explains the ancient soul bond he found beneath Dawnwell. He makes the important part clear first. The bond is permanent and it only works through informed consent. Then he admits that willing followers make him stronger, though he still keeps the private store to himself. Brienne asked what Leora received in return. Leora says she got someone who came back for her when winning would have been easier without her. Rowan adds shared strength, protection, and several details he is only pretending to understand. Brienne studies the bruised, soaked disaster in front of her and finds no hidden tyrant, just Rowan. Then she asks why he refused to let her sacrifice herself. Brienne lays both halves of her broken shield on the floor. She kneels before Rowan without ceremony or performance. Rowan reacts to the intimate posture with the calm maturity of a kettle left on a fire. Brienne asks to become his second follower. He warns her again. This is permanent, soul deep, and not something either of them can take back. Brienne says duty chosen freely is not slavery. For her, that difference is everything. Leora takes Brienne's hand, welcoming her before the system does. The ancient interface unfolds between the three of them. Brienne reads every condition herself, slowly enough that no one can mistake courage for haste. Then she presses her palm to Rowan's. Warm light traces a restrained, brand-like mark across her right shoulder blade. The bond burns into place, and Brienne does not flinch. The system recognizes a second willing follower and awards 1 point. Her emotions hit Rowan like a fortress bell. Discipline, fear, relief, and absolute chosen resolve. Brienne rises and calls him her leader, not because she has to, but because she decided he earned it. Back in the hidden chamber, the store opens behind Rowan's eyes. 2 points glow in the balance, one from Brienne's binding and one from Leora reaching devotion in the flood. Combat skills scroll past, each one promising a much more impressive version of Rowan. He pauses on a suspiciously affordable seduction perk because personal growth is rarely a straight line. Leora cannot see the menu, but she knows that guilty expression extremely well. Brienne orders him to buy something that keeps him alive. For once, Rowan listens and selects Body Foundation 1. The system demands both points. Rowan confirms the purchase before common sense can make a late appearance. Heat tears through muscles neglected by 19 years of optimism and poor decisions. He collapses face first between Leora and Brienne, which is less glamorous than he would later claim. Leora checks his pulse while trying not to panic. Brienne feels the bond and realizes his body is not breaking, it is rebuilding. When Rowan wakes, he takes the first clear breath of his adult life. Then he lifts one half of Brienne's shield alone. He is still weak, but now his body finally has a foundation to build on. Far away, night settles over the royal capital. At an abandoned observatory, a Founder-era crown begins turning by itself. Dust shakes loose from instruments that have not moved in generations. A sealed crystal ignites with gold light. The flare wakes an elderly royal astronomer at his desk. Across the crystal, the signal draws 3 linked circles. The astronomer compares it to a record the crown officially insists does not exist. The forbidden page names a sovereign bond network. Alarm bells ring through the observatory. Armored royal agents flood the chamber before the old man can finish reading. He points toward Bramblegate. A masked commander orders the signal sealed and every witness silenced. On the war map, Donwell is marked in crimson. Beneath the dungeon, another ancient conduit wakes in answer. And somewhere behind the throne, a concealed watcher opens their eyes. So Brienne chooses the bond, Rowan finally fixes the body he has been abusing, and the royal capital notices. That last part is probably fine. If you want to see what the crown sends to Bramblegate, like, subscribe, and join us for the next episode of The Weakest Explorer.